Thank you so much for being here tonight. You know, when I was crafting this pitch, I was trying to be really clever. And, you know, I really wanted to write something, you know, that kind of moved you and, you know, made you cry and you opened your heart. So I imagined that, like, I was standing on the stage and you were throwing money at me, supporting our mission. And then I heard this voice whisper inside my head and it said, like, shut up. You don't deserve to be here.
Oh, yeah.
Because parts of me still believe the lies that my abusers told me, that I was worthless and nothing. And, you know, that's the legacy of child sexual abuse. It leaves you feeling like you don't deserve to be supported. You don't deserve to be believed. And, you know, I'm someone that's worked really hard on my recovery. Like, I'm educated, I've done decades of therapy, but the pain of my child sexual abuse lingers. It lives in my body. It echoes through life. I blanked out my sexual abuse until my mid-20s, and one day I just remembered and my whole life turned upside down. I started writing as part of my healing, you know, desperate to kind of use language to give words to my experiences, and I took up boxing as a way to process the anger that I had turned inside. Feeling isolated is sadly really normal for people who've been sexually abused. Yet 1 in 4 Australians have been sexually abused as children, right? So why do we feel so alone? It's because there actually aren't spaces for us to come together. And so I created one, Left Right Hook. A group of survivors sit in a boxing gym and we write creatively, we share, and then we learn the art of boxing. What we do, like, it's not actually a feeling or an activity. It's actually backed by research. So really early on, I took it into the University of Melbourne, and our prelim research data showed reductions in complex PTSD, depression and stress, and powerful increases in people's agency, connection and belonging. And from that seed grew, right? We did a published book of survivor writings. We have a multi-award winning documentary now on Netflix. We partnered again with the University of Melbourne on a clinical trial to build our evidence. We train up survivors who do our programs, and they become our paid facilitators. Survivors start to feel strong, like maybe their lives matter. Tonight, I'm standing here to represent the 700 people that we have on our wait list. These are people that are all waiting for a space in our programs to be seen, heard and believed. Now, I know we're not going to fund enough programs tonight to meet that wait list. But what we can do together is actually just fund one. Each of our Left Right Hook programs costs $30,000, okay? That supports 10 victim survivors to do our 8-week writing and boxing journey, plus another 10 lived experience paid and volunteers who work inside our charity to provide wraparound support, plus clinical trauma-informed oversight. We're a micro charity and we're doing really, really big things. But I can't do this without you. And so despite the heaviness that I sometimes still carry, I actually have found meaning and purpose. And I really hope tonight that you can help me give that to others. I'd like to introduce Pixie, who's a 3-time Left Right Hook graduate and is also a survivor that's in our documentary. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All my life, I have felt small. So my name is Pixie, my pronouns are they and them, and I was one of the first participants in Left Right Hook. Now, as I stand here before you, I'm a pretty sizable person. I'm 170 centimetres tall. We can all agree I've got a decent girth on me. You can laugh at that, but I take up a lot of space in a room. And yet, all my life, I have felt small. See, my journey with sexual violence began when I was 4 years old. That's this big. And the perpetrator of that violence used the fact that I was this small, that I was weak and I was powerless to hurt me. And as I grew up and these things kept happening to me, I kept being overpowered because I was too young or too skinny or too quiet or too polite. And I carried that feeling of powerlessness, that feeling of smallness into every part of my life. I took it into educational institutions, I took it into workplaces, I took it into my relationships, familial, friendship and romantic, always trying not to take up too much space, trying not to speak too loud. And then on those occasions when I did dare to speak up and I said, hey, these things have happened to me and I don't think it was okay, I was always told to be quiet, to change the subject, that people don't want to talk about things like that. So I lived my life that way until I joined the Left Right Hook program. And the first time I wrote about my trauma, naturally, I cried because I had never been allowed to use my voice like that. And the first time I punched on that bag, I cried even harder because I had certainly never been allowed to use my fists. Because the thing is, I had never thought of myself as a survivor. I had thought of myself as a victim. I was this small, worthless person that these things just kept happening to. But slowly, through my work with Left Right Hook, I came to understand what the word survivor actually means. Because the truth of the matter is, I'm not worthless. I have found my strength. I have found strength in my voice, which is brave and honest and can make people listen. And I have found strength in my body, which can be tough and fast and absolutely can fight back. That is the gift that Left Right Hook has given me. That is the gift it gives to survivors. It shows us our voice. It shows us that we are strong. It shows us that we are not as small as we were when this first happened. With one program, $30,000, 10 people like me, or maybe like someone you're thinking of right now, can have that experience. They can have that support. You can give them that gift and you can show them that they are no longer small. Thanks.